Modern websites are absolutely amazing. They're stunning and beautiful. They're responsive and accessible. And in my opinion, they're absolutely boring. I miss the old days, the 90s, when websites were full of atrocious animations, drop shadow, repeating textures, patterns, and too many fonts used. So I thought to myself, can you make a 90s style website in 2025? Websites from the 90s had a certain look and feel, so our goal is going to be to recreate that 90s magic, that atrocious design style from the 90s in a modern design tool like Framer. I've already prepped for this project. I have a whole folder full of assets where I can grab repeating backgrounds and animated GIFs and different elements that I might be using, as well as a bunch of inspirations. Let's take a look at those inspirations right now. This is actually a new website that was created to look retro or 90s. This was for the Captain Marvel film. Lots of drop shadow, embossed edges, bad color, multiple different typography. We got Pepsi World, really atrocious repeating background image, bad contrast, hyperlinks here. The old Apple website has a lot of drop shadow and they're trying to bring in physical elements like almost like game cartridges. MapQuest, hyperlink, blue to death, bad layout as the browser expanded. We just had lots of width and space over here. And then this one is classic 90s, johnstools.com, drop shadow buttons, layout that doesn't make a lot of sense, bold texture and background images. So this is gonna be our goal, to recreate these classic looks using Framer. Let's jump into Framer right now, we'll start building. My Framer project is open and I've already thrown a bunch of assets in there that I know I'm going to use. Let's take a look at some of those starting 90s assets that we're gonna need. We're gonna need really atrocious typography and lots of different styles. So I've actually done some custom typography uploads. So you can actually grab inside of Framer a piece of text and you can come down here to the font and you can drill down to actual custom fonts that you can upload. So I've uploaded DS Digital Bold, Pinstripe Bitmap Regular, and I think out of the box, we don't have Comic Sans, but we do have this option called Comic New. So let's do a new school version of Comic Sans. That'll be fine. So we've also added some color to like a gradient to some of our headlines here. This is what we're gonna do. And I love the 90s website, a memorial to 90s pop culture. That'll be fun. A few things that I've already built to save time during this tutorial are some really atrocious looking buttons. So you might recognize some of these buttons from our examples. The first ones being our kind of glossy pill style buttons. We saw those in our Apple example. I went ahead and I built some of those and I'll show you how I've done it here. It doesn't look like a very good navigation bar as is, but when we drill into our component that we've created, it's set up in a really simple way. So first things first, I've actually, I have a dark and a light text of the same thing, and then they're just slightly offset so that we get that kind of like text drop shadow effect. I put some padding around the stack here so that we get some of that pill-like kind of horizontal button, and I've actually added an absolutely position to shine. So you can just barely see it there, but it is popping in place when we make sure it's visible. Then I've added a border, and like every good 90s website, I have also added a section that has a little dark line on the right and a light line. This is gonna be our kind of realistic separator, kind of using the light, real light source. Then I've created three variants here. I have a left, a middle, and a right side of our navigation. That way I can come into our kind of nav bar that we're building here and I can say, hey, make these two in the middle and make this one our end cap on the right. Let's put all of those together, put those in an auto layout and take the gap away. And just like that, you have yourself a pretty 90s style navigation. Now above that, I was inspired by some of those old school other button types. So instead of just a normal hyperlink, maybe we want to have another button like this. We could do that. And I simply came in here and created a component. And this component has, you can see here, like some really ugly drop shadow happening inside of our button. And if you zoom in too far, you can't see it, but you can see that drop shadow right there in the corner of our button. Hyperlink blue, when you hover over it, it's going to turn hyperlink yellow, and we have a variant of it that is consistent like that. So got a couple of assets we've built there for buttons and navigations. That's going to look pretty good. And then I actually took some time and I built out a full-blown NES cartridge. You click in here and you can actually see that this is built just using frames, shapes, and laying things out absolutely positioned to build our Nintendo cartridge, right? All of these things you could move around, even added that dip section section here with a little bit of inner shadow to give it that realistic effect. And after I created this, I just created a couple of different variants here. And then I used those buttons that I created to create kind of a little navigation switcher. So we can actually come here and press play, and you can see that I can actually click on these other titles and that I can switch back and forth between my game. So that's not too complex. You just go in there and prototype, set it up, create those variants, and you basically have a cool interactable element there. So we've already created some of these assets. Now it's time to start adding them to our design. And let's drill into the top of our project here. I'm just gonna take the text here. I'm gonna make a little hero text lockup. Let's turn that into a stack. And we'll just bring that stack right into the middle. And we're kind of absolutely positioning a lot of things on our screen right now. So that when we press play, you can see we stretch things out and it stays exactly where it's supposed to. Now you'll notice down below, we have a background. I already inserted that for our Spice Girls section. Let's add a background to this other section. Actually, we'll grab this section and we'll come into our fill. Let's hit it over to image. And let's just find the image that we want to work with. I think we have some really cool, just normal star patterns here. That's a pretty cool one. So why don't we actually just grab that and drag it in there. And we're not going to fill our background. That's boring. That's not 90s style. We want to tile our background because that's how you did it. So why don't we go ahead and tile that background. And now we get tiling and sizing options. Ah, the good old repeated tile. Let's do something like that. That looks pretty good, pretty atrocious. And then we have a couple other assets we can just start dragging in immediately into our project. So for instance, we have this stack here that has a bunch of animated GIFs. We'll pop that into place. And we have this animated GIF element that looks like it came from an 8-bit kind of Nintendo video game. So every good website needed to have some wow factor in the 90s. This one's going to be our wow factor. We're going to place it right at the outskirts of our text lockup on the side there. Then I'm going to copy and paste this, and I don't want to go back into like Microsoft Paint like you would in the 90s and flip it and have an alternate version. So I'm actually just going to add a little bit of a transform, rotation. We'll take the y-axis and we'll do a 180-degree rotation on it. And then we should be able to just drag it over here in place as well. So this one might be encroaching a little closer. That's fine. We're about 158 from that side and 158 from that side. So we're pretty much centered, and we have a nice little hero section here, okay? I think we're missing our text. Somehow we missed our text, our subheadline here. So let's pop that in and make sure that it is in a stack together with our text. So we'll pop that in a stack. And why don't we just, again, move it down to the bottom like so. That's a pretty impressive little hero section. Let's grab our navigation, and I'm just going to come into this bottom section that we have here that's marked as navigation, pop that inside. And I already took the time also and built out what looks like a website tracker. So every person that visits our website actually gets counted. And the way that I did that is I'm using a font called DS Digital Bold. And I just created two different versions. One has nothing but 8s in the background, and the other one has a bunch of digits. So they kind of overlay. So I'm just going to Command X cut that. And why don't we come into our navigation, paste that underneath, and now we have our good old-fashioned website counter. Pretty good. We like it. It feels good. So let's move into our Spice Girls section, and I'm just going to grab a F for frame, and I'm going to drag our frame inside. I'm going to line it up so that it is fairly similar. And again, we don't care about perfect alignment in 90s websites because they didn't care about perfect alignment. So we're not gonna. I'm just gonna use my picker, and let's do something like pink on pink because that's pretty atrocious. And we'll lighten it up just a little bit. Why don't we do a little bit of a border radius in here? I think we had some assets for our Spice Girls layout. So I have a nice animated GIF that says Spice World on top. And I have an image and some text. Let's do, this is kind of classic, like let's do like a really narrow column of text here, like where we only get like 3 words maybe. And let's drag this up, and we'll make our image a little bit bigger to fit. So it's like cut off image, intentionally bad. I'm promising you it's intentional. We're gonna grab both of these. We'll Command and Option Enter to turn that into a stack. And cool, we just grab this and we're gonna drop it inside of our element here inside of our frame. Pop it inside there. And why don't we make our element actually just fit our content, and then we can give it a little bit of padding. So we need a little bit of padding on the outside there. Pretty good. Okay, looking like a good layout. We'll grab this stack of animated GIFs. This looks like a MySpace layout of, you know, a 10-year-old girl from the 90s. And it's amazing. I love the Spice Girls. We all love the Spice Girls. So really cool section, a lot of fun. Let's move down to our next section, which I think is gonna be our video game section. I think we already had quite a few elements here laid out. It's our whole video game switcher. So Command X, I'm just gonna pop that inside and take our flames because, man, when you play video games, you need some flames. So we're gonna grab this and pop this in at the bottom, and it actually landed nicely. Everything's kind of stacking. That section was already in a stack, so we had our switcher and then our flames at the bottom. Pretty cool. We should be able to press Command P and preview everything so far. Scroll down and we can actually switch between our video games. GoldenEye, Sonic the Hedgehog, Zelda. All right, everything's looking really, really good. And now we just have a last grouping of elements here, which is I had this Blockbuster lockup. Big image here, imperfectly spaced, different typography. I think for this one we're using Times New Roman, super classic, and then a bunch of lightning bolts. So let's just grab this lockup that we've prepared, Command X, and we're just going to paste this inside of Blockbuster Video. Let's come back really quickly. Let's paste those elements over here. I think we lost the container that we were in. So let's grab the container, paste things inside the container. I might actually put a frame around our 4 lightning bolts so that we can easily kind of position one element instead of positioning a lot of different elements. Let's pop that in there. And great. Okay, it seems pretty good. We're just gonna get it on. I think they're a little bit more fun. Okay, got the everything kind of popping out there, and I have a really cheesy footer down below. Now we might need to add just a little bit of functionality here. Let's get rid of our extra assets that we don't need. I really want a anchor scrolling navigation. So when I click on Spice Girls, it jumps me down to Spice Girls. And it's not like smooth. There was no smooth scroll yet. Everything was going to be really janky and, you know, not so nice. So I think what we'll have to do is come into our component here, and we're going to need to add a link, and let's add a variable for that link. And it's not going to be smooth scroll. It's going to be instant, and it's going to open in a new tab. No, we want to open on the page. Now, those settings should actually stick around for the rest of our variants because they're variants of that original component. Now we can come back and we can click on these elements here. And let's see, we can say we want our first link to go to the home page, but we want it to go to a certain section, the hero section. Now, the reason we're able to select these as scroll sections is because we already had set up on each one of our kind of parent containers here. We have hero, navigation, Spice Girls, video games. When we see this little hashtag here, we know that if I scroll down on the right-hand side, that it's been given a name, and that little hashtag, that little ID is going to let Framer know, the website know, that that's where we want to skip down to. So with our first one, we are basically skipping to home and going to that hero section. With our Spice Girls, we want to go home and get me to the Spice Girls section. With video games, same thing, home to the video games section, and Blockbuster Video is going to be on the home page over at the Blockbuster link. Now when I press play, I should be able to click Spice Girls and jump down, click video games, and now we can actually click around. And in our video games there, we get some really cool little animated GIFs happening there. Really atrocious typography, or nice red typography with some blue anchor links happening. That looks really good. Animated GIFs, lots of different font styles. And guess what? This thing is not responsive because no websites were responsive in the 90s. So can you make an old school 90s website with modern technology like Framer? You absolutely can. Should you? I don't think so. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. I do lots of videos about design, development, and Framer, so make sure you ring the bell so you know when another video like this one comes out. Check the description below for some helpful information on Framer and 90s websites, and make sure you start a conversation in the comment section, and we'll see you in the next one.